Welcome back to another episode of ROC Boys Football. We are taking a look at potentially the most intriguing matchup of the week as the Florida Gators go on the road to Knoxville, Tennessee, and play the Tennessee Volunteers. This game has my mind a little bit in the pretzel. The line is 9.5. Tennessee has the favorite. Spread is 6, or the over/under is 62. There's a lot of different ways this game could go. What version of Anthony Richardson you'll see probably matters most. Before we get into it, though, I just wanted to say thank you guys for all the support you guys have shown the channel. If you guys do like talking college football, you do like the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We really do appreciate it. Dill, I'm going to kick it off to you. What is your early take on this game here?
Yeah, I think you answered it in the opening, is which Richardson showing up. I mean, if the Utah version of Anthony Richardson shows up, they're going to be a problem for almost everybody outside of maybe like the Georgia and Bamas and the teams that have kind of separated themselves from the pack. But, God, if he plays like he did against Kentucky, I think they're going to – Florida's like in trouble. Like they could lose by a lot of points.
Yeah, Anthony Richardson is a guy that he's not a guy you want to bet against. Kind of like Malik Cunningham in the sense that Anthony Richardson can be the best football player on the field any given day. I don't care if it's in the SEC. I don't care if it's in the Pac-12. He is that caliber of player. I know the Cam Newton comparisons were maybe a little bit premature, but he does show that capability of being the best athlete in open space, having the howitzer of an arm, making people miss, extending plays. That being said, some of the simple things, going through your progressions, being accurate with the football, don't always happen, and we saw that happen in the Kentucky game and, quite frankly, in the USF game too. I want to start with this. I think the biggest swing in this game, the biggest matchup is Florida brought in a bunch of transfers up front on that offensive line. They are big dudes. They are physical guys. Behind the running backs, Trevor Etienne as a true freshman looks awesome. Montrell Johnson, great. Naquan Wright, really strong. And then you have Anthony Richardson. This run game can be really dangerous. And if Florida wants to win this game, they're going to need to establish that run, keep Tennessee's offense off the field. The biggest matchup is, can Tennessee handle all that physicality and get Florida off the field and stop the run?
Yeah, that's the question. And frankly, Tennessee looked like they were very much up to that task against Pitt. Granted, I don't think Pitt is quite at the level of Florida with the physicality, and not even in the ballpark of the combination of Richardson and the running backs who've been playing exceptional for Florida. So I guess you kind of think, like, can Florida expose the Tennessee defense that last year they just weren't physical enough, and you knew teams could run the ball pretty effectively on them and beat them up. If Florida can do that, they'll give themselves a chance for sure. But I don't know. Tennessee looks much tougher this year, and they might be able to hold their own a little more than people think against Florida.
This Tennessee defense is probably the most underrated unit in the country, or one of the most underrated units in the country. They obviously don't put up the statistical numbers just because, like last year, when you play opposite an offense that runs so fast, you have to defend so many more possessions. You're going to give up more points. You're going to give up more yards, so the yards per game, the points per game, going to be a little bit skewed. This year, though, I mean, I did not think Hendon Hooker and that offense played their best game against Pitt, which is really the only game that you're really going to evaluate because Ball State, Akron probably not giving you the best read on what this Tennessee team is. Against Pitt, the defense kind of carried the way for a while. I mean, outside of a one run by Israel Abikanda in that game, they were averaging less than 3 yards a carry against this Tennessee defense.
And that's the thing. What was hurting Tennessee was Slovis was being really efficient, like kind of picking them apart through the air, but short plays. And obviously they hit the big one to Gavin Bartholomew, the tight end. And you don't want – I mean, Tennessee needs to avoid those breakdowns. Like that was very 2021 of them. And I think this team's better. I mean, hopefully they can avoid that issue because that did crush them last year. But, yeah, I don't see Richardson having I just don't think that's how they're going to do it. It's not how that's not how they broke down Utah at all. I just don't see him dropping back, throwing 5-yard passes on time and on the money.
That's the key. That's probably the key. If you're defending Anthony Richardson, you're limiting the explosive plays. Make Anthony Richardson make 8 throws, go down the field, avoid any penalties that backs him up against the chains, and score that way.
Because that's what Kentucky did, and that worked really well.
Exactly, because Anthony Richardson has kind of shown that if there's one hole in his game, it is the consistency factor. The wow factor is there. The explosive play factor is there for this kid. What's not quite there is the consistency. I'm going to make every single throw the defense gives me. I'm going to play within the offense. That's not really what he tries to do, which can't really blame him because he has the ability to score on every single play. He sometimes tries to do that. Tennessee needs to force him to kind of play within the offense, ask him to make all those throws and march down that field. I really like this Tennessee defense. It's something we went over in the summer. Jeremy Banks, Aaron Beasley at that linebacker spot, Trevon Flowers walking into the box just being a playmaker. There's a lot. Tyler Barron off the edge is a guy that I'm kind of waiting to have that breakout year. I think it could be this year. They got a bunch of names on that defense that I really like. I think this unit is a lot better than the country and the national media gives them credit for. And I'm excited to see them kind of match up. Like you said, they struggled with that physicality last year. I think they're going to be a little bit better against that physicality of Florida in that run game this year. We're going to learn a lot about this Tennessee defense on Saturday. Flipping sides of the ball, we talk about this a lot. Josh Heupel, one of the best offensive-minded coaches in the country. And now you have Hendon Hooker, who probably one of the best quarterbacks in the country. And I don't even think he's looked that great this year. He hasn't really had to be that good. Not really been pushed. But you combine Hendon Hooker with that offensive scheme with all the playmakers that they have on the offensive side of the ball. Cedric Tillman, Jalen Hyatt, you add Brew McCoy, Ramil Keaton. They're loaded up to the gills with guys who can hit explosive plays. And the biggest thing Florida struggled with is some breakdowns in the secondary, some miscommunications and letting guys run free. If that happens against Tennessee on Saturday, Hendon Hooker's going to kill you.
Yeah, I mean, that's frankly how they were scoring on Pitt. So you hit a couple big plays to Brew McCoy. Cedric Tillman even dropped like a 50-plus yard touchdown pass. And, I mean, that's Tennessee's offense. They hit big plays. They find ways to get their guys open. And Hendon Hooker throws a very nice deep ball, and they have a lot of speed, as you mentioned, on the wideouts. I think the question will be is can they – well, not only because I think the breakdowns are going to happen. I'd be really surprised if Florida plays a game that you don't see a couple of them. But I think other than that, they're probably going to need to try to run the ball at least fairly well. And I know that's not Tennessee's strong point. I think their offensive line's getting better. I'm not sure it's there. But when you saw Kentucky and Utah, they were able to beat them up front a little bit against Florida. And granted, Florida is tougher, but that's a one hole that I'm not sure Tennessee is really equipped to expose, and that could favor Florida a little bit at least.
And one of the things that we talked about a lot is the depth on Florida. Like, you look at the first-team defense for the Gators, they're really good. Like, there's not that many holes, especially on that defensive line. But when you start going through the second, third-team defensive line, that's when it kind of gets a little weak. Like, Gervin Dexter's a stud. I'm not questioning his ability, but the guys behind him, if they get banged up, or if Dexter has to leave for a couple of plays just to get a breather, the dude's 315 pounds, that's when you see Florida, and it makes a lot of sense because you had so many transfers, you have so many new faces. Billy Napier hasn't really been able to build the depth that he wants to, especially in the trenches. Ventrell Miller missed the USF game. We're not really sure if he'll be back for Tennessee. He's been awesome through the first 2 weeks and then unfortunately got hurt. He looked like he was back in that 2020 form where he was one of the best backers in the country. If he's not able to play, I can see Tennessee running the ball successfully. It's not really what they do. It's more when they get the numbers right. They spread you out. If they like the numbers in the box, they're going to run it. They have guys that can run the ball really well. Jabari Small, Jalen Wright, two really, really capable backs who can hurt you if you give them the opportunity to. This Tennessee offense is just so complete. I mean, it's so rare to have an offense where they have a solid offensive line. They have one of the best quarterbacks in the country. And then weapons all over the field who can hit those explosive plays at will. We're going to get to the pick right now. 9.5-point favorites, the Tennessee Volunteers at home. You got the over-under at 62. What is your take on this game if you had to bet
it? This is the one I would just stay away from. If I had any sense of what Richardson was going to do and who he is and what version I'm going to get, I'd have at least then you could think, okay, well, they'll beat him here, and come up to something. But at the end of the day, it seems like so much of this game stems on if Richardson plays up to his potential, Florida's I think
Florida can beat anybody in the country. We've said that after that first game against Utah. If Richardson plays to his ability and plays good football, I mean, this is one of the best offenses in the country. They can beat anybody in the country. That being said, 2 out of the 3 games we haven't really seen peak Anthony Richardson. For that reason, I'm leaning, if I had to place a bet, and this game is probably not one that I'm rushing to bet, I'm probably laying the points with Tennessee at 9.5. just because I think this Tennessee defense is way better than people are giving the credit for. Anthony Richardson he's put one really good game together against Utah, and that's about it.
And Richardson's, I mean, he hasn't played anywhere like what Tennessee is going to be.
Yes.
I mean, that stadium is going to be absolutely rocking on Saturday, and Richardson struggled a little bit keeping his composure at times. I mean, the Kentucky game, the wheels fell off the track a little bit. And
you were at home in the Swamp. Both games, Utah and Kentucky, you were at home. This is his first start on the road. I mean, they played in the Swamp the first 3 weeks of the season. Now they're going on the road to when Tennessee's good. I mean, you saw that against Ole Miss last year. That place gets rocking. It gets very loud. There's going to be a lot of hype around this game, and Knoxville is going to be buzzing. I'm excited to see whether Anthony Richardson not only plays to his potential, but how well does he handle the moment. This is a very big moment.
And the whole Florida team, frankly, because if you watched them last year, they always shrunk in
yeah,
not just the quarterbacks, but the whole team was.
I don't worry about that much because I think that was a Dan Mullen thing. I do really
fair.
like.
No, that's 100% fair, but like he does have to show it. This is the first place Billy Napier is going to show up with this Florida team. That's going to be really difficult environment. Like the 2 games they've played in Florida were pumping for Florida. Like obviously the Utah game was really jumping, and same with Kentucky, but he's going to have to prove that they can be composed and win in a real difficult spot.
Yeah, you're going to learn a lot about both teams on Saturday. That'll do it for the review on Florida, Tennessee. This one will certainly be a monitor game. I'm very excited for this one. Again, if you guys enjoyed the video, you like talking ball, you like the content, consider subscribing. We really do appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later.